Hello, dear friend. Welcome to Healing Pages channel, the safe haven where every page you turn brings you gently back to yourself. Have you ever wondered why some people seem incredibly smart, yet they still struggle with work or relationships, while others, who might seem pretty average, somehow make everyone feel at ease, respected, and even loved? I used to ask myself that too. And the answer, I found, lies in something we rarely taught in school: emotional intelligence, or EQ. Reading Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman truly changed how I see myself, others, and life. This book helped me realize, it's not just about how smart we are, it's about how we understand and handle our emotions, and how we relate to the emotions of others. Backed by decades of research in psychology and neuroscience, Goleman explains that every one of us has two minds, a rational mind and an emotional mind. And often, it's not logic that guides our lives, it's emotion. So today, I want to invite you on a journey. Not a dry, textbook kind of journey, but a journey back to yourself. We'll explore how emotions shape our choices, reactions, and even our destiny, and more importantly, how we can build emotional strength, clarity, and peace from the inside out. This book is divided into 5 parts, and as we go through each one, I believe you'll begin to feel lighter, more grounded, and more connected to your true self, where intelligence and emotion work hand in hand, guiding every decision with purpose and compassion. Are you ready? The Emotional Brain: Understanding Emotions, Mastering Yourself. Have you ever felt like your emotions were running the show, even when you knew what the right thing to do was? Maybe you found yourself reacting in a way you later regretted, just because your heart had its own say. If that sounds familiar, congratulations, you're completely, wonderfully human. The truth is, within each of us, there's an ongoing conversation between two kinds of intelligence, the rational mind and the emotional mind. And this is exactly where Daniel Goleman begins in his groundbreaking book Emotional Intelligence, a modern classic that helps us understand just how much emotions shape our lives. Goleman shares an eye-opening idea. We don't just have one brain, we have two, one that thinks, and one that feels. In other words, there's IQ, means intelligence quotient, and EQ, or emotional intelligence, and as it turns out, EQ might have an even bigger impact on your happiness, success, and relationships than IQ does. In real life, we've all seen it. People who are brilliant on paper, top of the class, masters of logic, but who still struggle with stress, conflict, or emotional outbursts. It's not because emotions are bad or inconvenient. It's because when we don't understand or manage them, we can lose our peace and our direction. Goleman puts it clearly. Emotions matter not only in how we think, but in how we act. A person with high EQ isn't someone who suppresses their emotions or pretends to be fine all the time. It's someone who can recognize, understand, and work with their emotions wisely. Someone who uses feelings as tools to make life more meaningful, decisions more aligned, and connections more real. Think of it this way: if logic is like the sunlight, clear, direct, and analytical, then emotions are like the sunset, soft, mysterious, and full of color, and it's this emotional layer that makes us beautifully human. Goleman explains that emotions aren't just fleeting reactions. They're actually powerful biological signals that helped us survive as a species. Anger? It's your body gearing up to confront injustice. Fear? It sharpens your senses to protect you from harm. Sadness? It gently nudges you to care for your inner world. But emotions can also get intense. Sometimes, they take over so strongly that logic doesn't even get a chance to speak. We lash out, say something we regret, or make choices that don't serve us. Goleman calls this emotional hijacking, when our feelings take the wheel before our rational mind can catch up. Imagine your brain as a cast of characters. There's reason, calm and thoughtful. Then anger, fiery and quick to rise. And desire, whispering endlessly about things you need. When anger and desire team up, chaos often follows. While reason tries to keep the peace, but sometimes just isn't loud enough. This inner struggle doesn't mean you're broken. In fact, it's completely normal. Goleman believes that while we can't eliminate emotions and shouldn't, we can learn to talk to them. We can ask, what am I really feeling right now? Where is this coming from? And most importantly, how do I want to respond? Emotional intelligence begins with awareness. You can't master what you don't recognize. So start small. Listen to your feelings, not to judge them, but to get to know them. When you're angry, pause and ask, what is this anger trying to protect in me? When you're sad, try asking, what do I need right now to feel supported? EQ isn't some far-off skill. It starts in the everyday moments. A deep breath before you react. A kind word when you're tired. A moment of empathy for someone else, or even for yourself. Having high EQ doesn't make you perfect, but it helps you be more real. Someone who can feel deeply, respond wisely, and stay grounded even when life gets stormy. If you're on a path of personal growth, trust me, learning emotional intelligence is one of the most empowering journeys you can take. It helps you understand yourself, connect authentically with others, set healthy boundaries, and most of all, love yourself without guilt. You don't need to be a psychologist to grow your EQ. You just need to start with one simple question each day. Have I truly understood what I'm feeling today? That alone is a powerful step forward. Emotions are not your enemy. They're your companions. And when you learn to listen, understand, and guide them, you become a truer, calmer, and more compassionate version of yourself. As Goleman said, emotions matter not only in how we think, but in how we act. So don't shut your feelings down, learn to befriend them. That's the true beginning of emotional wisdom, and of real maturity. Imagine your mind as a small room where 3 characters live. First, there's reason, calm, thoughtful, and always trying to make sense of things. Then there's anger, loud, fiery, quick to react. And finally, desire, quietly whispering about all the things you should have. Now, when anger and desire team up, chaos begins. They shout, demand, and push you into acting fast. Reason tries to step in, tries to restore calm, but sometimes, it's just too quiet to be heard. Sound familiar? This inner conflict might seem like a problem, but actually, it's completely normal. According to Daniel Goleman, the author of Emotional Intelligence, we don't need to eliminate emotions. What we do need is to learn how to talk with them, to recognize what we're feeling, to understand why it's there, and to respond in a way that's aligned with who we really are. So how do we start living in harmony with our emotions? The answer begins with awareness. You can't manage something you don't understand. So pause, breathe, and listen to your emotions, not to judge them, but to observe them like a trusted friend. When you feel angry, ask, what is this anger trying to protect? When you feel sad, ask gently, what do I really need right now to feel more at peace? Emotional intelligence doesn't come from grand gestures. It starts in the little things. Taking a deep breath before reacting. Saying something kind, even when you're tired. Noticing what someone else might be feeling. And most importantly, being gentle with yourself. Having high EQ doesn't mean being perfect. It means being authentic. It means feeling your emotions fully, accepting them, and turning them into inner strength. If you're on a journey of self-growth, I promise, developing emotional intelligence is one of the most transformative paths you can take. It helps you understand yourself deeply. It helps you connect more truthfully with others. It teaches you how to set healthy boundaries. And perhaps most importantly, it helps you love yourself, without guilt. You don't need to be a therapist or a mindfulness guru to build EQ. All you need to do is ask yourself one small question each day. Did I really understand my emotions today? If you did, even just a little, you've already taken a big step forward. Because emotions are not your enemies. They're your companions. And when you learn to listen, understand, and guide them, you become a better version of yourself. Imperfect, but grounded, sincere, and at peace. As Goleman reminds us, emotions matter not just in how we think, but in how we act. So don't shut your emotions down. Don't push them away. Learn to befriend them. That's how emotional intelligence begins. And that's how true maturity unfolds. Understanding emotional intelligence, so you're no longer a slave to your feelings. You've probably heard people say things like, "You're so smart, why would you do something so dumb?" Or, "High IQ doesn't mean much if you don't know how to live." As harsh as that may sound, it reflects a truth we all face. Being academically intelligent doesn't mean we know how to handle life, especially in a world full of emotions and human connections. Daniel Goleman said, "Emotional intelligence doesn't mean suppressing emotions. It means managing them wisely. And that is the difference between simply surviving life and truly living it." When IQ goes silent. I've done things in the heat of the moment that made me cringe later. Haven't we all? Goleman explains that when emotions like anger, sadness, or anxiety rise too high, they can take over the brain's rational center. That's why even the smartest person can act foolishly when overwhelmed by emotions. Recognizing this is the first step, not to shame ourselves, but to stop being slaves to our emotions and instead learn to befriend them. The good news? Emotional intelligence can be learned. Goleman breaks EQ into 5 core skills, and the best part? They're all trainable. Self-awareness, recognizing what you're feeling and why. Emotional regulation, guiding your emotions, not burying them. Self-motivation, using emotion as a drive to reach your goals. Empathy, understanding and feeling what others are going through. Social skills, building strong, healthy, and honest relationships. Goleman put it simply, our ability to manage our emotions and understand others is key to both success and happiness. Which emotional type are you? Goleman describes 3 kinds of people, based on how they handle emotions. The self-aware, they recognize emotions quickly and adjust before being swept away. The overwhelmed, emotions hit them like waves, pulling them into long cycles of negativity. The accepting, they notice their feelings but let them sit, sometimes too long, without action. Recognizing where you are is not about judgment. It's about saying, okay, this is where I'm at, and from here, I can choose how to grow. Is sadness the enemy or a teacher? Sadness isn't bad. It can be the quiet whisper asking you to slow down, reflect, and begin healing. But when we sink too deep without climbing out, it becomes a mental trap, what Goleman often refers to when discussing depression. And here's the powerful truth. Those who've walked through darkness often carry the deepest empathy, the most authentic wisdom, if they learn how to step back into the light. You don't need to do something grand. Even the smallest acts, like speaking gently to yourself or caring for just one tender feeling, can begin the journey. How to manage emotions without suppressing them. Management doesn't mean pretending to be happy all the time. It means knowing when to speak up, when to stay quiet, and when to simply forgive yourself. Try this. When angry, breathe deeply instead of yelling. When anxious, write down what's troubling you. When sad, reach out to someone. Don't isolate too long. It's not about being emotionally perfect. It's about emotional wisdom. Empathy, the heart of true connection. Ever talked to someone who made you feel seen? That's empathy. And it's a game changer, not just in work, but in love, friendship, and family. Empathy starts by being open with your own feelings. When you can sit with your heart without judgment, you can do the same for others. And finally, harmony with life. Goleman calls this the art of rapport, the ability to connect, lead, listen, and read emotions well. Some people seem born with an emotional radar, but if that's not you, don't worry. EQ can always be built. Start simple. Ask yourself each day, what did I feel today? How did I handle it? Did I truly listen to the people around me? That's emotional intelligence. Practiced quietly. Lived gently. Built over time. Daniel Goleman reminds us that emotional intelligence is not some rare gift. It's a journey, a practice of listening deeply to yourself, understanding others, and navigating life's messy emotions with clarity and compassion. And here's the beautiful part. The more you become a friend to your own feelings, the more peace, depth, and joy you'll bring into your life. Emotional intelligence in daily life. How to apply it for a happier life. When we hear the word intelligence, most of us think of IQ scores, exam results, or academic achievements. But in today's fast-paced world, where emotions influence almost every decision we make, EQ, or emotional intelligence, is the quiet superpower that helps us live better, work smarter, and build healthy relationships. In this part, let's explore how emotional intelligence actually shows up in real life, from love and work, to doctors and medicine, and we'll ask the big question. How can we manage our emotions while still being true to ourselves? Familiar enemies, emotions and relationships. Have you ever had a fight with your partner, and later wondered, why did I get so angry over that? The truth is, when emotions run high, especially in close relationships, our brain can go into red alert. Deep fears like, am I being abandoned? Or do they still respect me? Kick in. And suddenly we're acting like we're in survival mode, over a kitchen disagreement. But here's the thing. Emotions are not the enemy. The key is to manage them, not suppress them. One of the most essential skills in love and friendship is the ability to self-soothe, to calm ourselves after an emotional outburst. Once we're calm, we can listen, understand, and speak more clearly. Without this skill, even the most logical arguments can lead to broken relationships, not from misunderstanding, but from the volume of our voices. The art of giving feedback without hurting. Let's be honest, many relationships don't fall apart because of a lack of love, but because of how we criticize each other. Giving feedback is an art, and someone with a high EQ knows how to speak the truth without breaking the heart. A few simple but powerful tips. Be specific, not vague. Instead of saying, "You're always so careless," try, "Last night when I felt down, I wished you had checked in on me." Offer solutions, not just complaints. Don't just criticize. Collaborate on how to grow together. Listen and share. Feedback shouldn't be a monologue. Speak from your feelings, and listen with your heart. Be respectful and thoughtful. Honesty can still be kind. Blame builds walls, not bridges. When done right, feedback becomes a way to deepen connection, not destroy it. Emotions and medicine. How feelings affect our health. Did you know that chronic anger, stress, and anxiety can harm your body as much as smoking? Studies show that negative emotions, when bottled up, can hurt our heart, weaken our immune system, disturb our sleep, and even increase the risk of chronic illness. But here's the hopeful part. More doctors and nurses are realizing that listening with empathy, not just prescribing medication, actually speeds up recovery. This is why emotional medicine is gaining attention. It's about EQ in action, tuning into patients' emotions, building trust, and walking with them through healing. And guess what? If we learn to process and release difficult emotions early on, It's not just mental healing. It becomes a powerful form of prevention. Daily EQ practice, simple but powerful. Building emotional intelligence isn't something you do once. It's a journey. But it can start small. Like this. Ask yourself daily, what am I feeling today? Am I reacting? Or responding? Am I choosing love? For myself and for others? Just asking these questions is the first step toward emotional mastery. And with that comes a healthier, more connected, and more fulfilling life. The doors of opportunity, emotional roots from childhood. Now that we understand what emotional intelligence is, and why it matters in love, work, and even parenting, let's pause at a very special chapter. This part is like opening a door to the past, to our childhood, where our emotional habits were first shaped. Ever wondered, why am I like this? Why do some people seem naturally confident, while others are anxious and withdrawn? The answers lie in what Goleman calls windows of opportunity, the early emotional environments we grow up in. Family, where we learn our first emotional lessons. We don't get to choose where we are born, but those early moments, how our parents comforted us, scolded us, hugged us, or ignored us, quietly created emotional patterns that follow us for life. Goleman calls it the family crucible, where emotional intelligence is first forged. Some kids are lucky. They grow up with understanding, emotionally available parents. Others may experience coldness, harsh rules, or worse, emotional neglect. Research by John Gottman, a leading expert on relationships, found that emotionally intelligent parents help children bounce back from trauma and emotional distress far better than others. On the flip side, there are 3 common parenting styles that deeply wound a child's emotional development. Ignoring their emotions completely. Being emotionally absent or indifferent. Belittling or dismissing their feelings. Sadly, many adults still carry emotional scars from childhood, simply because no one ever taught them how to be sad the right way. It all starts with the heart. A child who is encouraged and supported grows up believing, I can do this. A child raised in cold or chaotic environments may grow up thinking, no one cares even if I try. Dr. Barry Brazelton, a renowned pediatrician, observed, some kids, even when they succeed, don't look happy. There's a look in their eyes that says, see? I didn't really do it. I'm useless anyway. And by the time they enter school, these children don't expect kindness from teachers. Dislike learning environments. Often drop out early. When a child believes they're already a loser, even a sharp mind can't make learning feel meaningful. To help kids learn, start with emotion. One education report identified 7 key traits that predict school success. And surprise, all of them link back to emotional intelligence. Confidence, a sense of control and belief in oneself. Curiosity, the desire to explore and enjoy learning. Intentionality, the ability to set and pursue goals. Self-control, managing emotions and behavior. Connectedness, building relationships with others. Communication, expressing thoughts and feelings clearly. Cooperation, balancing personal needs with group needs. So maybe it's not just about how smart a child is. It's about how emotionally safe and supported they feel. A child who is loved, heard, and understood learns faster, persists longer, and walks to school with a smile. Emotions are a launch pad, not a limitation. If you've ever thought, EQ is something you learn as an adult, this book will shift your mindset. EQ isn't something to learn later. It should be the foundation from the very beginning, because emotions aren't just what we feel. They're what we carry, copy, and grow up with. And if we ever had the chance to go back in time and plant the seeds of emotional intelligence, the best time would be childhood. Growing up isn't just about age. It's about emotions. We've explored the foundations of emotional intelligence together. From understanding what emotions are, how to manage them, and how EQ shows up in relationships, work, family, and even how we raise children. Now, let's move into a crucial chapter. What happens when we grow up without learning how to handle our emotions? Because the truth is, not everyone who becomes an adult has truly grown up emotionally. You see, many people look grown up on the outside, with degrees, jobs, and responsibilities, but inside, they're still like frightened children. And most of the time, it's not their fault. It often comes from not having emotional guidance during the most important years of growth. Daniel Goleman points out something quite serious. Modern society is facing rising rates of depression, anxiety, eating disorders, addiction, and even violence, not only in adults, but increasingly in teens and young people. And the heartbreaking thing is, so much of this could have been prevented. If only we had learned how to recognize, understand, and manage our emotions earlier in life. When children grow up without emotional guidance, studies and surveys with parents and teachers show something troubling. Today's kids are lonelier, more anxious, angrier, and more likely to act out than previous generations. It's not because they're bad or weak. It's because no one ever gave them the tools to understand their own feelings. Imagine a child who's struggling under academic pressure, feeling isolated from friends, but doesn't know how to talk about it. They can't name their emotions, and they don't know who to trust with their pain. So, they stay quiet. They suppress everything. Over time, that emotional pressure builds, until it turns into deep despair, anger, self-harm, or even violence. Emotional education can't wait. We can't keep leaving emotional education to chance. It shouldn't depend on whether a child is lucky enough to have a parent or teacher who knows how to listen. Because if not, their emotions are left unspoken, unprocessed, and people end up learning to live with silent wounds. That's why Goleman calls for a new vision for education. One where schools don't just teach what's in the textbooks, but also help children become people who understand themselves, connect with others, and live with kindness. In this vision, the classroom becomes a place to build self-awareness, emotional regulation, empathy and listening, honest communication, cooperation and harmony. He calls it education for the heart, a powerful complement to education for the mind. A timeless philosophy. Goleman ends this section with a timeless quote from Aristotle, the Greek philosopher who lived over 2,000 years ago. Anyone can become angry. That is easy, but to be angry with the right person, to the right degree, at the right time, for the right purpose, and in the right way, that is not easy. And that, my friend, is the heart of emotional intelligence. Using our reason to light the way for our emotions. Not to suppress them, but to guide them so we can act wisely, speak kindly, and stay grounded even in the chaos. It's not too late to learn. You can be smart, you can have a great job and high qualifications. But if you don't know how to handle pain, pressure, or emotional overwhelm, life will always feel messy. On the flip side, someone with fewer advantages, but who knows how to stay calm, connect with others, and care for their own emotions, that person will always find a healthier, stronger path forward. So here we are, at the end of our journey through Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. A book that doesn't just explain emotions. It teaches us how to befriend ourselves, connect with others, and grow in the most human, compassionate way possible. Because being intelligent isn't enough. Real success, happiness, and inner peace come from how we understand, feel, and respond to the emotional world within us. Maybe we didn't get the chance to learn emotional literacy growing up. But hey, it's never too late to start healing and learning now. If this video touched you, Don't forget to please give it a thumbs up to support more healing, uplifting content. Comment below, what was the part that resonated with you most? Share this with someone you care about. Maybe it's just what they need right now. And of course, subscribe and hit the bell icon, so we can meet again every week, for quiet moments with books, emotions, and a little more self-love.